to print frequency of each number. This is the question. Here I am taking one array. Array is equal to, and here I am taking 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 4, 5. I am taking this array, and I need to get the output as I need to get output as 1:1. It means I need to get the frequency count. Here I need to get the frequency 1:1. 1:1. So that 2:3. After that 3:1. After that 4:1. After that 5:1. Here I am getting the frequency. 1 is arrived 1 time. 2 is arrived 3 times. And 3 is arrived 1 time. 4 is arrived 1 time. 5 is also arrived 1 time. So here I am using one for loop. Int I is equal to 0. I less than array dot length. Array dot length gives the size of an array. And I am incrementing the array. Now I am taking another for loop. Here I am taking j for loop. J is equal to I plus 1. I am giving here I plus 1. It means if array is at if the value is at 0th index, then we are checking from the first index to last index. J less than array dot length j plus plus. Here we need to check whether the element is present or not. Here I am using this condition, array of I double equal to array of j. If the element presents, we need to increase the frequency. Here I am increasing the frequency. Here we need to initialize the frequency. Frequency is equal to 0. At first, we take 1 here. After that, it will increments. Okay. And here I am giving the frequency as 1. Here I am checking the condition. After that, I am closing this loop. And here for every index element, we need to print the frequency of it. So to print that, we need to print array of I plus frequency. So this will gives the frequency of that particular elements. This is the pseudocode for this question. This is brute force. We can say this is brute force. The whole solution which I written here is brute force. So that we need to use some techniques. So first of all, I will do this program in Visual Studio. I had opened the Visual Studio and I'm selecting my folder. Here I took one array. And here I'm modifying some changes here. Here I'm taking for int j is equal to I plus 1. J less than array dot length j plus plus. Here I am checking whether the element is repeated or not. Array of I double equal to array of j. If the element is repeated, then I need to increase the frequency. Frequency plus plus. Here I am initializing my frequency as 0. Here I am initializing my frequency as, sorry, I am initializing from 1 so that it will give the correct frequency. Here I am printing system dot out dot println of array of I plus frequency. So this will give the frequency of the code. Frequency of that code. Frequency of that array elements. Here I am giving Java C space a dot Java. Java A. See here, the 1 is repeated only one time. 2 is repeated only one time. 3 is repeated only one time. Here 4 is repeated twice, right? So the frequency for 4 is 2. Okay, the frequency for 4 is 2. Again, here I am getting, here the element is getting repeated. So we need to stop that, right? We need to stop that. Here I am getting the element count as 2 times. Here I am getting 2 times, and here also I got the element count as 2 times. So I need to stop it. I use break here. Then the element runs only one time. Then the element runs only for one time. Okay. Here 8 is repeated twice, 7 is repeated once, 6 is repeated once, 5 is repeated once, 4 is repeated twice. Here we are getting 4 is repeated twice. Okay. This is the output for this code. This is the output for the code. So this is brute force code. So this is brute force logic. This doesn't work properly for all the test cases. For all the test cases. So we now I will say one technique. Now I will say one technique. That is count sort. Now I will say one technique. Now I will say one technique, that is count sort. So from this we need to know what is meant by count sort. Here I am taking elements 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 4, 5. 4, 5. This is my array, and I am using one for loop. For int I is equal to 0, I less than array dot line I plus plus. Here we need to count the frequency, right? So I simply take another array. I simply take one duplicate array. I simply take one duplicate count array. Okay, here I am taking one duplicate count array. Here I am giving the size plus 1. Okay, I am giving the size as array dot length plus 1. Here in this for loop, we need to iterate, right? If I give count of array of I plus plus, then it will give the frequency of each and every element in the count array. In count array, we will be getting the each and every element's frequency. Here we will be getting the each and every element frequencies. Okay, here how it works, we check how it works. In count array, at first the element will be 0. Here in count array, the elements will be 0. When array of I plus plus. It means count array. Here, these are the indices 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here in count array, we get the frequency for these elements. We get the count for these elements. For there is no 0 in, there is no 0. Here there is no 0 in original array. Then the count for 0 is 1. Count for 0 is 0. Here there is 1. So the count for this is 1. Okay. There is no, here we are having the 3 values for 2. So we are storing the count in the second index. Here 3 is having the count as 1. 4 is having the count as 1. And 5 is also having the count 1. Here in this count array, we are getting the frequencies of those elements. Here, if we check this, count of array of I. Count of array of I means count of 1. Count of 1 plus plus. It means count of 1 the index element is repeated only once. Here, if we take 2, count of 2 plus plus. Here we given count of 2 plus plus. Then the frequency of these two, the frequency of the 2 will be getting. Here the frequency of 2 is 3. So we got the 3 as output. So this is the logic. This is the another method. Another method. We can say this method as count array. Count array. Okay. This method is called as count array. Here I am taking one for loop for int I is equal to 0. Here I am taking one for loop. Here I am taking one for loop. Here I am taking one for loop. For int I is equal to 0. I less than array dot length I plus plus. Here I need to count the count, right? So here count array of I plus plus. Count of array of I plus plus. Int count array is equal to new int of array dot length. New int of array dot length. Here we need to get the frequency string. System dot out dot println of arrays dot to string of count. If I give this, then we will be getting the frequencies in that array. We will check once whether we are getting the frequencies or not. See, here we are getting at 0th index. We are not having any 0 values, so that the count for 0 is 0. The count for 1 is 1. The count for 2 is 2. The count for 3 is 3. The count for 4 is 2. The count for 5 is 1. For 6, 1. For 7, 1. For 8, we are having 2. So this is the 9th elements count. There is no 9th element here, right? So we are getting the count as 0. This is all about the count array. And we are having the another method also. There is one another method. There is one another method. So if you need to know about the other method, you need to know about the hash map. You need to know about the hash map. After learning hash map, we will discuss the third methodology. Hash map. You need to know the hash map. you need to know the hash map. If you learn hash map, then it will be easier to solve them. So the time complexity for count array is count array time complexity is count array time complexity is R of m. The count array time complexity is R of m. R of n. The brute force time complexity is brute force time complexity is the brute force time complexity is R of n square. R of n square. The brute force time complexity is R of n square. So we need to reduce the time complexity, right? So if we use the hash map, then the R of time complexity is R of 1. The time complexity for using hash map is R of 1. This is the optimized solution we will discuss after discussing the hash map. Thank you.